day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's economics lesson. My name is Mr. Berry. This lesson is brought to you by the Northern Cape Department of Education in collaboration with Pagama Research and Development. Good day again, grade 12 learners. Today, our knowledge area will be based on the contemporary economic issues as we prepare for your paper 2 final examination. At the end of the lesson, we should understand the structure of the paper and how to respond to different question verbs from different question papers, previous question papers. Our paper 2, we have 2 big chapters, macroeconomics, contemporary economic issues, and we have 6 units, 3 from the macroeconomics and 3 from the contemporary economic issues. Today we'll be looking at questions from your contemporary economic issues. You find contemporary economic issues in question 1, which is compulsory, and question 3, which is only a contemporary economic issues for 40 marks, and question 4, where there's 20 marks for contemporary economic issues and 20 marks from microeconomics. You also find contemporary economic issues in question 6, 40 marks essay. It is contemporary economic issues, right? So if you've mastered the contemporary economic issues, you've mastered your inflation, tourism, and environment. It means that you are going to be answering question 1, question 3, question 4, and question 6, where you find your contemporary economic issues. Right, so grade 12, when you prepare for your paper 2, remember, do not select which essay you want to know or which chapters are you focusing on. You need to study everything as per the examination guideline, revise on your previous question papers so that you get used to how the questions are asked and how questions are being answered. After writing a question paper, find the marking guideline and mark yourself and to see the process. How are you understanding the questions? Right, so the structure of the paper, we are writing out of 150. It is 2 hours. Don't forget to read the instruction. The question, we have 6 questions divided in 3 sections. We are only answering 4 questions. Section A, it is compulsory. Section B, you are answering only 2 questions. And section C, you are answering 1 question. Section A is compulsory. It has both microeconomics and economic issues. Section B, question 2, it's only microeconomics for 40 marks. Question 3 is only economic issues for 40 marks. And question 4, it is the mixture of micro and economic issues, 20 marks, 20 marks. Then section C, question 5 is only microeconomics, and question 6 is only economics issues for 40 marks. Right, so these are the essays that we find in economic issues. Discuss in detail the consequences of inflation. You need to know this essay as you prepare. Discuss in detail the measures to combat inflation. You need to know this essay as you prepare. And then there's effects of your tourism. There's the benefit of tourism that was asked this year, June paper, our senior national certificate paper. Right, discuss in detail how government ensures sustainable development. This was on our November paper last year. And then we have discussed in detail the following problems of international measures. Those are your loss of biodiversity, your climate change, chemical waste, right? That is the essay on environmental sustainability. So there are 2 essays in environmental sustainability, 2 essays in tourism, and 2 essays on inflation, right? So ensure that you know your essay, because for question 6, it means if you know your essay, you are carrying the 30 marks in your brain, that when you get there, you're just going to be writing it down. Right, so we are moving to our activities. We have section A, type of question, which is your 1.3 question, where you read the statement and you give the correct terminology. We have 6 questions. You'll be given 5 minutes to complete the activity. Then we look at the marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. The first question: tourists traveling through South Africa using air, road, rail, and sea transport to get to the next destination. That is the transit tourist. Landmark or area which is selected by the United Nations as cultural, historical, or another form of importance, that is your World Heritage Site. The process where tree and forest are removed from land and are not replaced, that is your deforestation. A significant and sustained change in the normal weather pattern, that will be your climate change. Inflation that exclude items in a CPI that are highly volatile, that is your core inflation. The policy used by the South African Reserve Bank to stabilize prices by combating inflation, that will be your monetary policy. Right, let's move to section B question. Right, so these questions you find them in your 3.1.1. Right, so you have 6 questions. You'll be given 6 minutes to list. You are only listing, remember, you can't list 3. If it says 2, you must list 2 because you are marking up to 2 answers. Right, your time will begin now, and then we look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. Name any 2 major international problems. This we find in the essay: your loss of biodiversity, chemical waste, hazardous waste, climate change, and loss of indigenous knowledge. Remember, if you know the problems, you also need to know the international measures, right? What are the international measures to solve those problems? Name any 2 causes of soil erosion. Can be heavy rains, heavy winds, agricultural activity, or deforestation. Name any 2 non-renewable resources: coal, gold, oil. State 2 international agreement on disposal of chemical waste. You have your Stockholm, you have your Rotterdam Convention. Right, those are the international measures for chemical waste. Name any 2 ways of measuring tourism. We look at the length of stay. It must be over 1 night, less than a year. Distance must be 160 kilometers, and there must not be remuneration. And list any 2 types of tourism. Can be for leisure, for business, for culture. Right, so we're moving to a type of application question. This question you find them in your 3.1.2. Right, we have 5 questions. You'll be given 6 minutes to complete your questions. It's 2 mark, meaning you need to apply. You are not listing, you must write a full sentence. Your time will begin now. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. Why do policymakers exclude some items when calculating core inflation? Remember, core inflation, we exclude items that are highly volatile. Policymakers take out volatile goods to find the underlying change in the CPI. So they want to see, because the volatile, highly volatile goods are those where prices keep on changing, so we cannot really use it to calculate our CPI. So we want to look at the core inflation. What causes this inflation beside the product that are highly volatile? How can government ensure equal distribution of tourism activities in a country, so that less places where there's tourism, because maybe it's rural or they are less known? How can government ensure that there's equal distribution? By creating representative body, people who can market the product. A restrictive body: if you come to a city, they must have different pamphlets for different areas, so that people are aware of those places. Improving marketing to highlight benefit of an attraction of the areas which are less known, so they need to market those areas where they are less known. How can the granting of property rights help to conserve the environment? Granting of property rights is giving people to take care of things that belong to them, right? So given a certain environment to take care of. Granting property rights ensure that people sustain environment their own environment, because people tend to take care of things that belong to them at a less cost to the government, because now it belongs to them. Why is it important of preserve the environment? Why is it important to preserve the environment? Why is it important to preserve the environment? Remember, we have to conserve, where we continuously use the environment in a more efficient way, and preserve is where we are keeping our non-renewable resources intact. Preserve, safeguard the natural resources, maintaining their integrity for the benefit of the future generation as well. Why are global summits focusing on sustainability crucial for the environment? Global summit like your Johannesburg summit, your Rio de Janeiro meetings, those meetings have been held to ensure that the sustainable development environment is taken care. Why are they crucial? Why are they important? Environmental issues such as climate change, deforestation, ocean pollution are not affecting only one country and cannot be solved by one country. It needs a cooperation between countries. Right, grade 12, we are moving to a data response question. So you have 5 questions, and then you'll be given 8 marks. Then we look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. Identify an industry that represents leisure from the picture, entertainment and recreation. Name the organization that is responsible for marketing tourism, that is SET, South African Tourism. Briefly describe the term infrastructure. So grade 12, we need to understand the difference between infrastructure and environment. Environment, we're talking about land, air that we find from the nature, and then infrastructure, it's your superstructures that are built by people. Infrastructure refers to physical and organizational structures that facilitate, that are meant to support the function of the economy. So infrastructure can be roads, bridges, buildings. Those are infrastructures. Why is tourism considered to be labor intensive? Tourism creates a wide range of job opportunities that are performed using manual labor, such as cleaning in hotels, driving tourists to their destination. So tourism, it hires all type of skills, from your unskilled, semi-skilled, and skilled labors. Right. So we're going to look at the picture here, and then we are going to answer this data response question. From question 1 to question 5, you are given 8 minutes. Then we're going to look at our marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. Identify the cause of climate change on the picture. Air pollution, smoke from factories. State any one international protocol and agreement on sustainable development. Johannesburg Summit. Right, if you've mentioned any other agreement, then you'll be correct. Briefly describe, which is relevant, briefly describe the term global warming. Global warming is an increase in the average temperature of Earth, surface, and ocean as a result of greenhouse gases. So global warming can be caused by our global warming will be caused by the climate change. Because of global warming, we'll have what? A climate change. Right. Question number 4. Explain the impact of positive technology on environmental sustainability. The newer technologies uses environmental friendly methods of production and provisioning of services which help to recycle pollution. How can the loss of biodiversity be addressed? Remember, we need international agreements, right, that we may have, or a country can come up with ways like modern technologies to ensure that we are not, our endangered species are not dying out completely. The Convention of International Trade and Endangered Species, which is CITES, bans the trade in endangered species on agreed list of plants and animals. So this is an international agreement that reduces what loss of biodiversity. Site control is executed through the issue of permits and quotas to regulate trade in certain species. For example, you need permits to move plants in South Africa, right? There are certain plants that you need a license for you to import, right? Let's move to a next data response question, right? So you have the table and then there are questions that follows. You'll answer the question. You are given 8 minutes to complete the activity. Then we look at the marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at the marking guideline. The first question, identify the base year on the table, right? Our base year will be 2022. Name the institution that sets inflation target, that is the South Africa Reserve Bank. Briefly describe the term all-inclusive inflation. All-inclusive inflation measures the change in price for all final goods and services. Explain the impact of high inflation on income. Inflation reduces the purchasing power of money, hence consumers afford lesser goods with their income. Calculate the inflation rate presented by letter A, right? So inflation rate, you need to look at the CPI. So letter A is for 2024, right? So for 2024, you must look at 2023 and 2024 for us to find our inflation rate, where you take CPI present minus CPI previous over CPI previous times 100. So you take the one from the current year minus the previous year over the previous year times 100, and your answer is 4.9%. Right, grade 12. So we are moving to our 8-mark question. The first question, how successful has South Africa been in using education to ensure environmental sustainability? Remember, one of the ways to ensure environmental sustainability by the government is through education. So how successful is, you can say it is successful or is not successful in ensuring environmental sustainability. You are given 6 minutes to respond. Remember, you need to write 4 full sentences for you to maximize the marks, and then we'll be doing our correction. Your time will begin now. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. The question was to see how successful has South Africa been in using education to ensure environmental sustainability. So these are the possible answers for success. The National Education Framework integrated environmental themes into school subjects, where most subjects are teaching about environment. Example, economics, now we are doing environment. Private-public partnership between schools and businesses help to empower young people by connecting them with projects related to the environment. Municipality have policies that makes people aware of the importance of protecting the environment, such as water conservation. We can say it was not successful. Despite the national environmental education policy, environmental problems such as pollution in urban areas keep on increasing. People may be careless, or even though there is education, because if there's no education, then you say that they lack the knowledge. In rural areas, deforestation keep on escalating as people use indigenous trees as a firewood. Land degradation persists, especially due to poor farming methods and overgrazing in poor communities, right? So you can look at the successful and not successful. You can write 2 of successful and 2 of not successful, or 3 and 1, as long as you are saying a relevant information that matches what you are asked. Right, the next question, why market fail to ensure environmental sustainability? Market, we're talking about consumers and producers. Why are they failing to ensure environmental sustainability? You are given 6 minutes to write 4 full sentences. Then we look at our marking guideline. grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at our marking guideline. Why markets fail to ensure environmental sustainability. The environment is a common resource. It is non-excludable, right? So they look at environment as a common resource. So for listing this is only one mark. But when you explain it, many parts of the environment are not privately owned, do not have a price, so there is no economic incentive for markets to economize their use. So they don't take care of the environment because it is not privately owned. Because of negative externalities, when people pollute the environment, the costs are taken by others, right? So it results in other people bearing the cost. Lack of knowledge, people may cause environmental damage without realizing it, especially when the effects build up over a long time. Sometimes they just don't know. Sometimes it's carelessness. Consumers and businesses are frequently prepared to continue with various harmful practices and leave the future generation to worry about the environmental consequences due to self-interest, because we want to have more profit, we want to benefit more from the environment. We keep on doing things that we know that will affect the environment negatively, even though we know that the future generation may have to have a problem, may have to deal with the problem that we have created, we still do that. That is carelessness. Right, the next question: how can South Africa promote tourism industry to attract inbound tourists? How can they attract more people to come visit South Africa? Right, it's 8 marks, so you have 6 minutes to complete the activity. Then we look at the marking guideline. Right, grade 12, our time is up. Let's look at the marking guideline. How can South Africa promote the tourism industry to attract inbound tourists? Promoting the South Africa industry through increased marketing and advertising of tourist destination. For example, magazine programs like Shop Left to inform people about local places of interest. Improving infrastructure used by tourists by improving infrastructure such as communication, transportation, improving the quality of services given to tourists so that they can return and they can tell others about word of mouth about the good services that they've received in the country. Developing new tourist attraction sites and properly maintaining those existing ones. Recognizing or rewarding businesses and individuals who improve the quality offered to the tourists by giving awards for best services. Enhancing efficiency of tourist information outlets, such as information outlets that supply pamphlets and information about the specific area. Using tourism endeavor to showcase South Africa's best tourism products and attraction internationally to international visitors and media from across the world. So by promoting the attractions to people who are abroad, so that they are able to come and see those beautiful places. Right, so for the essay that we are going to be revising today, we are going to revise the essay that we find under the unit of inflation. It says discuss in details measures to combat inflation, and then we'll have the introduction for 2 marks and conclusion for 2 marks. And remember, when you find this in the examination, you'll be given any higher order additional part for 10 marks, right? So before you write a conclusion, you must answer the additional part, right? So let's go through the essay together. Introduction: you're going to introduce what is inflation. Inflation refers to a sustained and significant increase in the general price level of over a period of time, right, and decline in a purchasing power of money. Main body: you're going to discuss fiscal measures and monetary measures and other measures to combat inflation, to reduce inflation. So inflation is an increase in the general prices with a decline in the purchasing power. How can we combat that? How can we solve the problem of inflation? We can use fiscal measures. So fiscal measures, we have 2 instruments government expenditure, and taxation. So we are going to use what? Your restrictive fiscal measures. Physical measures are taken by the Minister of Finance regarding taxation and government expenditure. Example of measures that can be taken include increased direct taxation, which will help reduce demand. Sometimes we have inflation because there's too much demand and production is not there. So producers will increase price. So by increasing direct taxes, it will reduce demand. An increase in indirect taxation causes spending to decrease because consumer become more goods become more expensive. When VAT increases, then they will buy less. The state cuts back on expenditure by cancelling government projects like roads, hospital, because when government spend, there will be money in circulation, which may trigger inflation. So government will have to cut back on expenditure. Monetary policy. The South Africa Reserve Bank and the government apply certain monetary measures to cap inflation. So monetary policy, we have open market transaction, interest rate, moral situation, cash reserve requirement that can be used to combat inflation. The South Africa Reserve Bank adjusts the quantity of money to the needs of the economy. For example, through open market policy, the Reserve Bank can do what? Through open market policies where there's buying and selling of government bonds between the Reserve Bank and the commercial bank. Right, and then we have our monetary measures. Monetary measures, we have your instruments, your open market transaction, interest rate, moral situation, and cash reserve requirement. The South Africa Bank can adjust the quantity of money that the economy needs according to what? The needs of the economy. Using the open market transaction, this is where they are buying and selling of shares, government bonds. Right. So if there's inflation, there's too much money in the economy, the Reserve Bank will have to sell the government bonds into the commercial banks, and then they can take the money outside the economy. The Reserve Bank caps inflation caused by excess demand by reducing the money supply. The Reserve Bank can use the repo rate, right? They can use the repo rate by increasing repo rate, which will reduce borrowing and encourage savings, right? So there will be less spending. Excessive credit can be reduced by restricting the granting of credit by banks. The Reserve Bank can apply the moral pressure, moral suasion, by persuading banks to not borrow people money, or they must borrow people money more carefully because already the economy has too much money in circulation. And then we have other measures. So we have fiscal measures, monetary measures, and other measures. Increased productivity. This is a long-term measure generated through improved education and training. So when people are more productive, they will be producing more. So when they produce more, supply is more, then prices can drop. Price control, by fixing price of certain products so that they remain affordable. Wage policies, the government can take a decision to break the inflation of increased wages, because the inflation that is caused by increased wages, by creating wage policy where a wage increase will be matching the inflation rate, which is your CPI. So it will only match the CPI, the increase in CPI, so that people are not demanding for more wage that is higher than the CPI, which can create more inflation. Stricter condition on consumer credit. The government makes it harder for consumers to get credit by restricting banks from borrowing people money, because already there's too much money in circulation. That will restrict spending. Encouraging personal savings. One of the reasons there's inflation is because of reduction in saving. The government can implement measures to encourage savings. For example, cutting taxes on saving, giving them tax-free savings that will encourage people to save more, right? And then by saving more, they will spend less. For conclusion, Your main body, you talk about fiscal policy, where we are using taxation and government expenditure, and monetary policy, where we are using the instruments such as interest rate, moral suasion, cash reserve requirement, and open market transaction. And we have other measures. That is your body. For conclusion, you cannot repeat the information. Introduction is you describing what is inflation. So for conclusion can be any other higher order conclusion. And remember, before conclusion, there's always additional part. That question will be given to you as an additional part for 10 marks. Inflation can be a threat to a normal functioning of the economy. Therefore, measures like monetary and fiscal are important, are very important in order to control inflation. Right, for our homework, you're going to discuss the consequences of inflation. This is where you are discussing debtors and creditors, taxpayers, savers and investors, psychological influence, and then that will be your 26 marks for the body, 2 marks for introduction, and for additional part, how does the foreign direct investment influence inflation in the economy, good and bad? You can discuss that. And then the other 2 marks will be conclusion, that will make it 40 marks for your essay. Right, grade 12, we've covered questions from different question papers that covers inflation, tourism, and environmental sustainability. The reminder to go through your examination guideline and look at the structure of the examination guideline. What is it that you need to know, and revise using your previous question papers, and mark yourself to see what the setters are looking for when they ask different type of questions. Thank you so much for joining into this class. All the best for your paper 2 final exam. Thank you. Keep well.